going to walk you guys through my attack roster in war. First, we'll just browse through them real quick, starting from bottom to top. Power Armor, Brotherhood 2.0, X-Force, X-Men, Astonishing X-Men, Hydra 3.0, Hydra Guardians, H3, whatever you want to call them. Shadowlands, X Factor, Symbiotes, and Black Order at the top. I'm 13.5 mil TCP at the time of this video. If the stars align, this roster on a super efficient war can potentially hit 20 million in damage. That being said, the numbers that you just looked at was me looking through saved numbers in the in Blitz. So those power numbers are going to shoot up about, I don't know, 70,000. Okay, starting with power armor. As you can see, this got a little sketchy. I had some bad RNG. The best that this attack will do is maybe a 10k punch up. I don't like to risk it any further than that. But I don't often use this team on Asgardians, but if they're available and they're around a similar power, the safe bet is usually around a 30k punch down. This is power armor with Ultron. Typically, I'll use these guys on Wave 1 Avengers. I usually like the similar punch down as well. So those are usually the two counters that I'm looking for. Either Wave 1 Avengers or Asgardians. Power armor works on a lot of stuff, but these are the two things that I usually look for. Normally, I'm looking for the most efficient meta-ish defenses that I can take out. Obviously, Asgardians have slipped into where they're not meta any longer, but if they're in the way and I have an answer for them, I'll do it. Typically, I save these guys for Wave 1 Avengers. You usually see Wave 1 Avengers and Marauders quite often, so I try to have as many counters for them as possible. For my second attack, now these aren't in order, obviously. You don't know. Obviously, it depends on your matchups, everything like that. I'm just taking the roster from my weakest to strongest attack. Second is Brotherhood 2.0. You don't have to bring them up super high either in order for them to function. Typically, the stuff that they counter, Brotherhood 2.0 is the most low-key MVP, unsung hero war counter that there is. They're amazing. They're one of the most underrated war offenses that you can have. And as you can see here, this was a, I don't know, 110k punch up. It did get a little sketchy because of Ghost. Oftentimes you'll see on the Pimtech version of this, there's slight variations. Like this one, there's no Star-Lord, but there is Ghost. There's no Vision. Sometimes there's Vision on this team. You usually use Brotherhood 2.0 most often on Technerva or on Pimtech. Those are the two most common defenses that you'll see, and usually what I reserve this team for. Typically very, very safe counter. I usually don't suggest punching up this high if there's variables in them, but 100k punch up is usually pretty safe. 50k punch ups, almost a literal guaranteed win where you can slap it on auto and walk out of the room. Next tech, we have X-Force. X-Force, usually I reserve them for Merc teams. You see Merc teams almost in every single person's defense. The other punch up that you can sometimes pull off is X-Force into Doc Ock, Sinister Six. I usually hunt down a layup mercenary team if possible. So this was a pretty decent punch down, fairly safe attack. As you can see, this fight literally took seconds, and I was done and moved on. You can punch up into them. It's not very safe. Lots of weird nuances come with mercenaries. So there's little tweaks. A lot of it depends on how big the taskmaster is. That's usually everything that has to do with how this attack is going to go. So if it's a massive taskmaster that can change things, maybe safer to punch down a little bit. But I usually reserve X-Force for mercenaries. But they do work on Sinister 6. They're technically an answer for everything if you have them built high enough. For me, this was as high as I felt comfortable building my X-Force up. Just where the meta's at, who knows? These guys could be fairly irrelevant a while from now, but I think that they're going to be strong for quite some time, just simply because mercenary defenses aren't going anywhere. So until then, this is a great war offense to build, and I think they're my third lowest one. So I haven't attacked yet with X-Men. They're probably, as far as teams falling from grace on war offense, I think with removing Beast, it's really hurt them quite a bit. Psylocke is okay, but you can't. If everyone's probably noticed at this point, they're not nearly as reliable as they used to be. That being said, I usually use it. So I haven't used these guys in this attack. We could clear this war on the next energy drop. So X-Men and Astonishing X-Men, I haven't used them yet. So I'll just talk right from the save squads in Blitz on who I usually use them for. Wave 1 on a significant punch down. Now, when Beast was on this team, I used to punch up as much as 100k on Wave 1. Now, I think a 40k punch down can be questionable sometimes. Just that's how dramatic losing Beast was. That being said, they do work on mercs. Again, much sketchier without Beast. Punch downs are the way to go. Those are typically the two teams that I use them on. They're still counters for a lot of things, but again, this attack roster is meant to attack the meta defenses, and so mercenaries in Wave 1 are typically what they're reserved for. Now, Astonishing X-Men, it's nice to have one of these in your back pocket, have them built up nice and big for Doom teams, and that's because of the bots. They can get you lots of turn meter. Typically, that's the best thing to hold on to these for our Doom teams. So they work on mercs. They also work really, really good on Asgardians. Same reason that symbiotes do. You just keep hitting Greg over and over again. These guys have much more AoE, so they actually work even better than symbiotes do, in my opinion. You really can't hide them behind Drax or anybody like that. So putting Red Guardian, you're still, because they have so much AoE, you can pretty much kill Greg whenever you want and wind up their turn meter and walk right through Asgardians. So typically they end up getting used on Asgardians a lot of times because my symbiotes I use on a different target nowadays, just because I like to get the most bang for my buck. That's what this attack roster is meant for, to get the most bang for your buck. I'm interested in what other people use their Astonishing X-Men for as well, but that's what I reserved mine for. Next, we have the Hydra Guardians. As you can see here, this is one of my favorite attacks to use them on, just simply because you see so many Marauders. It's nice to use them instead of a Black Order, to not only for your teammates, but to have as many counters that you can have accessible for taking out Marauders, so people can hold on to their Black Orders for, as far as your alliance mates, yourself, to use on stuff where Black Order is the only answer. Black Order is a Swiss Army knife for any meta defense. So the more often you can hold on to those and not use them, the better it puts you later on in the war. That being said, Here you see we have a small punch down into Marauders. I have seen as big as 100k punch ups into Marauders, and the other. Now this team works on Sinister Six, and it also works really good on any minion team. So some people still use Hydra teams on defense, and they're good in mirror matches as well. So there are occasions where you'll see a Zemo paired with Red Skull on defense. This is a good answer for that. Some of those teams, Zemo creates a lot of problems. So using Zemo on Zemo, usually a good idea. And yeah, I usually use these on wild minion teams. You still see them. Once in a while, you'll still run into some 750k Coulson Fury shield team or something wild like that. And these guys will typically melt right through them. They're actually good for almost anything, and they actually work really well on defense. Symbiotes don't work on them because of Zemo. Not to say that it's impossible for symbiotes to work on them. It's just it throws a variable in there that makes symbiotes much more unreliable because Zemo starts first, he hits hard, ability block can often delete somebody. So there's that. That being said, this team actually works on a whole bunch of stuff, but these are the things I like to look for. Typically, another way to hold on to a Black Order is usually the smart way to go. So I like to use them on Marauders. Next, we have Shadowlands, and here you get to see them punch down a little bit into what has been known as one of the best defenses in the game right now, and that is the SS Shield Humans. I guess that's the best name for them. I don't know. A $ shield human. Yeah, whatever. So as you can see, really easy to punch up on them. And I would like to give an honorable mention for another great counter that they can be used for. As you can see here, here is a Marauders with Dr. Doom on it on, geez, a 70-something K punch up. And for all intents and purposes, looks like it was pretty easy too. So you have a 683k Marauders getting their ass handed to them by Shadowlands, 609k Shadowlands. Also, you'll see a Reminex, small punch down, same thing, sort of. This is a hybrid skilletary team with Shuri and Doom, and from what it looks like, no problems there as well. Shadowlands are the new hotness when it comes to war offense, and these are some good examples. These are the most meta, badass defenses in the game, and as you can see, they rip right through them. So if you're into war, build your Shadowlands. Next up, we have X Factor. Now, this is a, 70-ish K punch up, something like that. And this is on Marauders. As you can see, no problems at all. Poor Marauders, man. They are just getting slapped around by everybody these days. So, as you can see, there's actually no time in this attack where I felt like things could get sketchy or whatever. It's kind of fun watching Sinister clone a dupe as well. That's a kind of a big deal. And yeah, it doesn't take much for these guys to walk right over Marauders. That being said, they're still technically missing a fifth. I think Minerva's great to have in that spot, and she gets wound up by all the dupes dying, because let's be honest, that's what they're there for. They're there as fodder. So whenever one dies, it winds her up, and it gives them another source of healing. The only better replacement I would say is Silver Surfer, but in the meantime, I think Silver Surfer is better on defense. I did use him on offense briefly on this team, but they don't really need him. They don't need Silver Surfer. it's better to throw a monkey wrench on defense. That being said, I'm sure this team can pull off some pretty outrageous punch-ups on Marauders at this point. Marauders are obviously noticeably falling from grace as the best defensive team in the game, but lots of answers for them. So there you go. Pretty awesome punch-up on them. Very easy, not stressful at all either, so there's that. Second to last, we have symbiotes. Now, I know they're a hard counter for Asgardians, but more and more people are finally taking Asgardians off. They're they're just symbiote fodder for the most part, so people are getting more use out of them now on offense. For teams like I showed you, like the Hydra Guardians or H3 or whatever you want to call them. Some people have mixed them in with mercenaries. I don't see that as much anymore. I think at the end of the day, people realized the juice wasn't worth the squeeze there. So I actually like them-ish on safe punch downs on Marauders. You can pull off small punch-ups. There's a lot of variables, though. Depends what room they're in. A lot of things can make this attack go sideways. But the main thing is how big the strife is. If the strife is smaller, there's a really strong chance you can rip right through them. Once you get somebody in the red, it's all downhill for there for Marauders. That being said, I like this attack because most of us have really built our symbiotes up to be really, really powerful. And it's not uncommon for our symbiotes to be bigger than Marauders that you see on defense. So this is an attack that I like. It feels far more useful. Like I said, I try to have as many options to take out Marauders because they're a team everyone uses on defense. And it used to be where they used to pull a Black Order almost every time. Nowadays, that's not the case. So for some alliance mates that may not have a ton of other options other than Black Order, this lets them hold on to Black Order for something else or for a different Marauders. Anything you can do to make your Black Orders go as far as possible is a good thing. So that's my thinking there, and it just gets the best use out of symbiotes, in my opinion, because they're being used to take out a meta team. I think less and less people or more and more people, I apologize, are taking Fury off the Shield Humans team because he does become their weakest link, much like Hela does, because of the Protector attribute on the Shield dude that he summons, whatever the guy's name is. But he shuts off Yo-Yo's ability to put offense down, and he ultimately becomes symbiote food. So don't use Fury on your Shield Humans. He doesn't help them out any. He just creates another counter. There's some people that still talk about symbiotes like they're a counter for Shield Humans. Only if they're like 100k bigger than them. That's the only thing. Everything's a counter for something else if they're big enough. If the disparage is so big between the TCPs, then that's anything's a counter for anything. Then it's like saying Shield on offense is a counter for Shield Humans on defense on a 300k punch down. Well, yeah, then I guess. But yeah, symbiotes aren't reliable on an even matchup or even on decent punch downs if you remove Fury and replace them with Silver Surfer. It completely changes how that team works. So do that. And then that brings us to our final team. Still, I was going to say still the best offensive team in War, but I want to say X Factor is maybe X Factor and Shadowlands may have eked them out. I'll say this though. These guys are still the Swiss Army knife of War offense. They work on pretty much anything for the most part, like pretty much anything. Whereas some of these new meta offenses, we have yet to try them on everything. We just know that they work on the best stuff. That being said, Black Order we know works on everything, literally everything. So this is the only team I have that's tier 15s all the way across. They're all 6 red star. They're not quite fully T4'd. And the reason for that is because they still work on just about everything. And I still think they're going to be viable for quite some time. I could see them slipping to like 3rd or 4th best offensive option as another month or 2 goes by and we learn all the things that these that Shadowlands and X Factor can do. That being said, this is still the numero uno attack because it's pretty safe. But I've pulled off some pretty wild stuff with X Factor and Shadowlands. If you're into war, you should be building those 2 teams because they've shown that they can outshine Black Order in some matchups. But that being said, hey, if there's some of these attacks that you use, or there's some that I'm not using that you've had a lot of success with, no honorable mention to Fantastic Fortron, for instance. A lot of people use them. I'm using Fantastic Four on defense for right now. Yeah, so if there's some of my counters you use for other stuff, or there's an honorable mention you think I should have had in there, an attack you think, for me, this is one of the most optimal offensive lineups that there is that I currently have. And I'm at 13.5 mil TCP. As you can see, I'm an 8 attacks in. I'm about 15 mil damage. On a good day, I can flirt with 20 million in damage if I have the right matchups that I can take advantage of. I've only seen 20 mil broke one time, and that was by Yags, who's in our alliance. He's got a much beefier roster than I do by about 6 mil though, so I don't think I can challenge him in offensive output. But I just wanted that, just using this as an example, as a measuring stick of what you're capable of doing with these offensive options. 20 million damage is on the table with a 13 mil TCP roster. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any anything you want to add to this or some questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Bye.